Let's loom knit your sweater. Today is part 3 of 6, the front.
Welcome to Good Knit Kisses. We're all about helping you stitch your love and love your stitches.
All right, we're ready for part 3, the front. Be sure and click down below to get the pattern. Also, you're going to want to also go back to part number 2 so that you can work the beginning part of this panel. Let's look at this piece right here. You can see that I have knit my length just as I did before with my 2 inches here. Any custom length here, it's normally going to be the 19 inches. Then we've bound off our first 4 stitches and our other stitches on the other side, and we've started our armhole. So let's jump over to the pattern. Okay, we're going to the page that says the front, and we're going to work from this double asterisk to double asterisk as given for the back. So let's just jump back over here and refresh ourselves as to what we did in part 2. We have the back, we have the double asterisk where it says cast on our stitches. It's the same one that you did the week before. You've got your row 1, the UK knit, the purl repeating for your ribbing. You're doing 2 inches, which I said was 8 rows, and then you proceed in your texture pattern. And then you continue on that until your custom length or your total of 19 inches. And then we shape our armholes by binding off the first 4 stitches at the beginning of the next 2 rows, and we have our ending stitches here. Okay, and then that's where our asterisk stops. So you're going to want to stop this video and get to that point. We're going to move on to the next page here. Okay, so let's go back to the asterisk. So where it says the armhole, you're going to continue on for these measurements. Now these are shorter than the ones for the back, and that's because we're going to start shaping the neck, and then we'll get it back up to the length that you had before. For the sizes, you're going to go to 5 inches on the extra small. You're going to go to 6 for the medium, 6.5 for the large, 7 inches for both the extra large and 2X, 3XL, and then 7.5 inches for the 4 or 5XL. So continue to that point and pause your video. Yes, you'll want to go check out that other video before. If you need some help, you can do this. And when we come back, we're going to begin directly at shaping the neck. This is the part that you need the most help on if you aren't comfortable reading that pattern. So let's jump right in. We're back, and I've got my armhole, and I'm making the 5 inches for the extra small. Yours is going to be different. If you're using my numbers, I used 8 ridges here, and mine lines up here with this bind off. There's the first ridge, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 7, 8 are up in here. All right, so this next part, I think you should go ahead and grab a couple of stitch markers. I'm getting 2 of different colors, and you'll see why in a moment. The one in the pattern I show marking first, but I think you can mark another one because we're going to be decreasing to a certain point, and this will help you see where you need to stop. I do want to make sure that you notice I do have my working yarn on this side after I made a knit row, and this video will be flipped for the left hand as well. So if you need that video, click down in the links below. Okay, so here's the pattern. We are on Shape the Neck, and we're working with this part where it says next row, continue in pattern across, 20 stitches for the small, 22 for medium, 24 for large, 27 for extra large, 33 for 2 3XL, and then the 4 5XL is 36 stitches. So you're going to continue across just those stitches, and then you're going to place a marker on the last peg that you worked. So that particular number, that's the peg that you work. So let's go ahead and do that first, and that's going to indicate the neck edge, and then we're going to ignore the rest of the stitches on the loom for now, and then we're going to turn back and work back to the beginning of the row. So let's go do that right now. All right, I'm at the end here, and this is going to be my last peg that I'm supposed to work in my number. Just take that loop off and put on your marker and then replace it. Now if you notice, I have my slip with the yarn in front of the peg down here, and then I have 2 knits. That's because if I continued on in the pattern, I'd have to put a slip with the yarn in front on this one, and that's just not going to work for me because we're going to be working in a flat panel back and forth, and on all these rows these are going to be either knit 1 or knit 2 together, and we don't need that extra slip there. So not all of the sizes are going to have an even amount. So if you have an even amount, it's going to end and look like this. But the one that has an odd number, it'll just look like normal, and you will have just the one knit at the end of the row. Okay, so once you've worked to that number, go ahead and work back, and join me in a moment when you finish this. So remember, this is a row 2 after the setup row. So let's work our way back in pattern, but go ahead and on this first peg here that's marked, just always work this in a knit. Do not use the purl on this one, okay? This is going to be at the neck edge only. So instead of purling here, just knit, and then this one will also be worked as normal, which is a knit, and then we're purling one below and continuing on. All right, pause your video. I'll see you at the end of the row. All right, we're at the end of this row, ready to begin our decreases. Let's look at the pattern. Okay, so this paragraph, it says continue in pattern, and there's an asterisk for some extra instructions we'll do in just a moment. Decrease 1 stitch at neck edge, that's at that marked peg, on next 4 rows, then every other row twice more. And then we have stitch counts just so you can know and double check. I'm going to have you put in another stitch marker here to show you where you're going to be ending. We're actually going to be moving stitches down. And so what you can do is count out how many stitches that are going to be gone, which is 6. And then after that 6th one, you're going to put on actually the 7th peg, you're going to put your extra stitch marker on. And I'll have that on here in just a moment. That way, once we move them all down and you're on your last peg, you'll know you've already got them all done and you're at the right stitch count, and you can double check everything. All right, so let's go over the decreases. So I'm working on this as a right-handed video when I film, so know that the left hand, the name is going to be slightly different. It's actually an SSK on your side, but that's okay. I'm just going to show you how to work it, so the movement will look like the same movement, but it's just flipped. So decrease on even row K1, which is knit 1, and then we're going to do knit 2 together, and then continue in pattern to the end. Now the knit 2 together is just making it lean a certain direction. And then to decrease on odd row, continue in pattern to the last 3 stitches and knit 2 together and knit 1. So all decreases are happening at the neck edge. Let's look over at our knitting here. So when you're working towards the neck edge, you know for the next 4 rows that you're going to have to decrease down here. So just know that when we're working in this direction, everything's going to have to shift. Okay, so I suggest shifting it first. Your stitches can be knit after that fact, and then when you work back in this direction, you'll immediately do some more moving over of your stitches. So, and you can knit them as you go. So let's do that now. Go ahead and place your stitch marker, again, the 7th one down, because we're going to not mark these 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and this is my 7th one. Okay. All right, and so let's go ahead and start moving our stitches. So the last 3 stitches are these, so that's the marked peg and then these 2 here. We want to put this stitch on the bottom of these 2, so I'm going to pick this one up and move this one over. A bit of a stretch here. Put this one back down. Okay, and then now we can start picking these up and moving them over. Okay, like that. So just pause your video and continue moving your stitches, and then you can work in pattern until you get down to here, and you're just going to knit these 2 stitches together. So basically you're just working a whole knit row all the way to this point. Okay, so go ahead and finish that out, and I'll show you what to do when we work back this direction. Pause your video and I'll see you soon. All right, I'm at my neck edge, and now we're ready to begin and decrease on this edge. So we're going to lift up the 2nd stitch next to the stitch marker again and move this peg, this stitch on this peg over 1. So put the 3 on the 2, and I'm going to move this over here just to make it easier, just for a second. Okay, I'm going to pick this up and move it back over. Okay. And so now I'm going to work the stitch again. We're just going to knit 1 and then knit these 2 stitches together, and you can do them one at a time or all together at the same time, doesn't matter. All right, and then now we want to start moving these stitches over and knitting them. So I'm just going to go ahead and knit and then move. Okay, that's just easier to do. All right, so now you know what to do. Go ahead and work to the end of your row. Pause your video, and I will meet you back at this point over here. See you soon. All right, you can see we've moved over, and now I only have these 4 stitches beyond the stitch marker because we've already taken off these 2 pegs here at the end. So go ahead and repeat those last 2 rows. You're going to work this one, decrease the neck, and then work this one, decreasing at the neck first. Pause your video, and I'll meet you back up when you're finished right there. See you soon. All right, so we're back at the end here, and you're going to want to repeat these last 2 rows twice. I've actually gone ahead and moved over my stitches just like I did before, because we're going to decrease at the end here, and then we're going to decrease at the beginning when we start. But this row right here is going to be a setup row, and then we're going to do a patterned row. So don't forget that when you're working these back and forth, you need to stay in pattern. And one way to catch how you're doing that is to look at the back and see, or actually look at the front here, and see where your stitches lie. And it actually looks like with mine right here, I can see the slip with the yarn in front at the beginning here, so I'm good to go. It should be on that second peg, and so my patterning is fine. I recommend going ahead and just double checking before you start, and you do your slip with the yarn in front of the peg and continue to the end of the row just as normal. Okay, and then when you get down here to the end, just work these as a knit 2 together and knit 1. Okay, all right, pause your video and I will see you there. I just did my 3rd decrease, and now I'm working and beginning this one. You can see that I had already knitted 2 over, and actually the last 3 stitches on mine are a knit, and then we have our setup on this row here with a slip with the yarn in front, and that's just how it runs on this particular row. So go ahead and I'm going to knit this one, and then I can go ahead and move these 2 because we're going to be doing the moving of the stitches where I pick this one up, and then work these 2 together. Okay, but there's a trick on this one because we have that slip with the yarn in front of the peg. Go ahead and get this knit over. Hold on, make sure to get all. Ooh, I split that yarn. There we go. Okay, so the next one is going to be whoops. Okay, so this popped over. All right, so the next one is going to be the slip with the yarn in front of the peg, and you've got a purl one below. So you just go ahead and do that first, and then move it. Don't try and move it with that slip there. And go ahead and tighten that up and place it so that it's not too loose, because if you make all of these loose as you move them over, you're going to have a gauge problem when you look at the front of your sweater. All right, so again, the next one down here is going to be knit. So go ahead and move that. Just move them individually. And then we do purl one below and continue on as normal. Okay, so go ahead and finish that out. Pause your video. I'll meet you at the end of this row for the next set of instructions. See you soon. All right, you have done 4 decreases, and you know you do because you have 2 left before this stitch marker that we did to make sure we know where our place is. So now just do 1 row. This is going to be a knit row for me. Just do 1 row across here, and then only decrease at the neck. So you're going to repeat that twice. So I think you've got this. So go ahead and knit this all the way down, do your decrease on the front side, and then do it again. You're going to work your next row, which would be another pattern row down. Now that you know how to do that, just see the earlier part of the video and then do another decrease row. And once we get down to this point here with this marked peg, I will see you for the further instructions. See you in a moment. All right, we're at the end of all of our decreases. We have got our stitch marker here on this very first peg, and that means we've cleared out all those 6 that we need to do. Let's look at our pattern. So the remainder of the shape neck just goes on to this paragraph here where it says continue even in pattern until armhole measures same length as back to shoulder, making sure first 2 stitches on each row 2 are knit at the neck. So when you get over to the neck side, you're going to make sure those first 2 stitches are knit instead of doing like a purl beginning on that row. So just continue working on. You'll notice on mine, I had 8 before, and then when I start counting and all of my ridges, I know that I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's where the 8th was, and then I added on 9, 10, 11. So I actually only have one more set, one more ridge to do. So I know I have one more row 2, and then finish out those 2 stitches or 2 rows afterward. So continue on until yours matches your back. Just come over here and get a refresher from your back panel and count how many of these ridges you need. Pause your video, and I'll meet you at the end of that correct length. See you soon. Okay, we've knit to our length. We've got the right amount of ridges in here. We're ready to shape our shoulder. So let's look at that pattern. Okay, so we're right here where shape shoulder is, and this is going to be just like we did on the back. You're going to keep continuing at the pattern, bind off those first several stitches at the beginning of that row, finish out the row, work another row, and then finish off binding off the remaining stitches. So this is just like before. For the small, you've got 7 that you bind off, 8 for medium, 9 for large, 10 for extra large, 13 for 2 or 3XL, and 15 for the 4 or 5XL, and then it changes slightly for 2 of the sizes for the remaining stitches, and those are all that you've done between those 2 stitch markers that we just did. You're going to cut a tail and or cut the yarn and leave the tail, and then we'll meet back up for the next part. See you in a moment. All right, you've completed this shoulder here, and you can see I've taken off where I had a marked peg, and we're going to be replacing that stitch marker and moving it down on the other side. Let's go ahead and look at our pattern. So over here we have on shape shoulder, we're on this part, the second paragraph, it says skip next 15 or 17 stitches, place marker on neck edge, join new yarn at marked peg, and work remaining stitches continuing the pattern to the end of the row. Now the first 2 sizes, small and medium, get 15 stitches, and then the last 4 sizes are going to get 17. So you're going to take your stitch marker and move it 1 further over than that number. So it'll be either 16 or on the 18th peg, because we want to start working at that marker just how we did on the opposite side. So let's go and look at that. So I've already moved my stitch marker. It was down here, and we're going to move all the way down here, and I've just picked up this one and put in my stitch marker. So counted 15 over to here, and then I put it 1 outside of that. So go ahead and place that here. And just so you know, this is what my shoulder looked like over here. Later on, we're going to be picking up stitches along this edge and working this shoulder. But for now, you're just ignoring it, and we're going to ignore these pegs here, okay? So you're going to finish out this pattern. Now remember, this is where we were working in pattern, and on mine I left off after row 4, so I would start a setup row, because this is just like on the other side of the shoulder and where you would be continuing from there. You can also look at your work and kind of stare at it and remember where you were, but I know that I ended where I was ready to start my setup row. So we're going to go ahead and put on our yarn, and I'm just going to leave a nice long tail and knit this over on the first stitch, okay, right where that peg is, and leave this nice and loose, and I can weave this in later on. Again, I don't want a slip knot or any hard knots here because it's a wearable and I want it to feel nice there. So we want to continue out. This is in pattern, so go ahead and look underneath here and see where that needs to be. I can tell that this is where I have a slip with the yarn in front, and it's on this peg right here. Flip it over, and I can see it actually needs to be here. So I'm going to go ahead and knit over, okay, and then I do my slip with the yarn in front of the peg here. and then continue on in pattern. Okay, so complete the remainder of this row, pause your video, and I will meet you back at the other side. See you soon. Okay, so this side of your sweater is going to be the mirror opposite of the other side. You're going to be making your decreases at the neck edge just as before. It's just that these two pegs here, they're going to be put together different. So you're going to make sure that this stitch right here is on bottom. So this one's going to go on top of this one. They're still moving in this direction here. Now, when you're on a patterned row, such as this one, we had this set up and we wanted to get this correctly in line. When you come back here and you know that these two are going to be worked in an SSK, go ahead and knit this one over. I just did that so you could set that up correctly. Okay, so let's go ahead and work a couple of these together just so you kind of get back in the groove of it, and then we'll continue on with the directions after that. So just continue with this pattern. Again, start with the purl. So you got purl 1, and then you have your purl 1 below, and then your knit 1. Okay, continue that pattern on, and then we can just move the stitches in when we get closer in, and I'll pause your video and I'll meet you at that point. See you soon. All right, so we're down here. We want to pick up our stitch here and move peg 3 onto peg 2 and put peg 2 back down. All right, and then go ahead and start moving over all of your stitches for this one to get this empty one to get filled. Just gotta move all these down, and then you can finish out your row by knitting these two together and knitting one. Pause your video and I'll meet you here for going the opposite direction. See you soon. All right, we're working in the opposite direction, and we're going to pick this third one up and pick up the second one and move the third one onto the second, and then put the second back down. Okay, and then you can start moving all of these stitches in. So you're going to go ahead and just knit this first stitch and then knit these two together and start knitting these and moving them over. Okay, so you can also choose to just move them over first and then knit them. Just make sure you are keeping an even tension, or else again it will show different on the shoulder over here. So you're just going to keep repeating those in the same type of pattern that you did over here, where all of the stitches on the two ends end up being either a knit 1 or knit 2 together, or the SSK is really what that is. It's essentially knitting 2 stitches together. It's just one is a left leaning or a right leaning decrease. Okay, so let's look at this pattern. I just want to show you what we just covered. The part of the pattern is right here, where we continued in the pattern, decreased 1 at the neck, the next 4 rows. So we just did that. We actually did the first 2 rows, and then you're going to repeat those last two twice, and then we do every other row twice more to get the same remaining stitches that we did before. And then I just went over how to do those actual decreases. And then you're going to continue and even in pattern until the armhole measure is the same length as the back to shoulder, making sure the last 2 stitches on each row 2 are knit at the neck, just as we've been doing. So I'm going to be doing my 12 ridges, and then yours to match your other side, just as you did. We're going to add in this note here, end on an odd row at the start of the shoulder. So you're going to be at the opposite side of the neck, and that will set us up for shaping the shoulder correctly on the last part. So go ahead and do that. Pause your video and I will meet you back at this point. See you soon. All right, we're ending on an odd row, meaning we have worked all the way down here, either doing a setup row or you just did a full knit row. In my case, I did a knit row. It was actually row 3, and then I'm ready to start binding off and shaping my shoulder. So we're doing the opposite what we did in the other side. We're just going to be working in this direction. For my stitches are 7 stitches, and then yours will be whatever you did last time. So let me go grab that pattern. Okay, so we're shaping shoulder, And we're going to keep continuing in the pattern. Bind off 7 stitches, 8 for medium, 9 for large, 10 for extra large, 13 for 2-3XL, and 15 for 4-5XL at the beginning of the next row. And then you continue that, working that row. And then we'll come back. So you work one row after that, and then we'll bind off in the same direction again the remaining stitches, so all of them, and leave a tail and cut the yarn, and that is it. So after you finish that part, meet me back here and I'll show you the last part, the very, very last part. See you soon. Okay, we're at the end and we have shaped both of our shoulders and the neck. We have our remaining stitches on here, either 15 or 17 depending upon your size, and this is where you want to put them on a stitch holder just like we did on the back panel. Now yes, you can go ahead and leave these on the loom if you want to. You could take off parts of this and use that for your sleeve. However, I recommend going ahead and taking them off, because when we get to the part where we are picking up stitches, we are going to place these stitches on the loom on this shoulder here first, and then be adding on stitches one at a time, and it's going to be very tight if you have to stretch this over the amount of stitches, and it'll be easier for you if you'll just do this part first and then place them on the loom. It sounds maybe counterintuitive, but I promise it actually is going to work best. Now I recommend going ahead and weaving in your tails for both the shoulders if you are going to be using this roving type yarn and you want to use a different yarn to sew that together. Otherwise, you can use these for sewing up your stitches, but I would weave in as many tails as you can for both of these panels, your front and your back, and then we'll move on next week to making the sleeves. So again, to do a provisional bind off, all you do is take your scrap yarn and start putting it through all of your stitches here. So you should only have just those 15 or 17 stitches. Just check your pattern and make sure, and then remove this from it. Well, I'm so glad that you joined me this week in making your front panel. You have done most of your sweater now. You've done 2 of the major parts. That's the biggest part of the sweater. Next week we'll be working on shaping the sleeves, and then we will work on making our collar, which is the most involved week, and putting stitches back on our loom, and then we'll finish it off. Well, join me next time. We'll see you soon.
Thanks for joining us today, where we help you stitch your love and love your stitches. See you again soon.